Welcome, everybody. Saturday morning, Clear Mountain, great choice. So I think we have one or two announcements. One of them is that today, this space is actually going to be used by a different group. So we're going to do cleanup a bit earlier. People probably have noticed that there's no potluck in the back like we usually have. So there won't be a potluck today. And we won't even have tea and coffee today. So we'll actually start setting up. We'll ring a bell around 11:20, and people can start putting chairs away. But up to that time, you're welcome to just hang out with each other. And then even as we put chairs away, people can still hang out. And then around 11:30 or so, we'll start kind of pushing people towards the doors. But yeah, hope everybody has a very nice morning, even though it's a little bit of a switch up. Anything else on that note, that front? Okay. So we continue to have our daily Zoom meditations. So this is every weekday, the Monday through Friday, and these are the times. And if you can't see, no worries, it's on our website. It's on the calendar. It's on literally every single day of the calendar, so you won't miss it. But yeah, these are the hours: 3:30 to 7:30 in the morning, 11 to 1, 3:45 to 5:45, and do see that as a resource. People interact with these hours in many different ways. We've got some people who do come to all of the hours. At least for one day or multiple days. If you have a day off, that might be an interesting challenge for yourself. What would it actually look like to meditate for 8 hours, if that seems like it's within your zone of proximal development? Or you might just be like, that's way too much, that's insane. I just want to do 5 minutes. That's totally cool too. Feel free to just drop in at any point that you want. The endings are especially sweet. So at 7:30, 1 p.m. or 5:45, I'll ring a bell and then unmute, and then everybody will just kind of do one of these Anjali kind of prayer hands and then just waving goodbye to one another. And it's a really sweet time to see Kalyana Mitta. So seeing if this might help. It's a good forcing function to just get yourself to meditate. If you see value in meditation and think, oh, maybe I could meditate a little bit longer. Maybe I'd like to see what that would be like. Here you'll have a group of other people who you can do that with, especially if you commit to yourself or commit to somebody else that, okay, I'm going to try that out for 10 minutes a day or whatever it is. And feel free to interact with it as you like. And you'll see Kalyana Mitta. It's all forced mute, so there's no chanting or anything like that. It's just all group sitting, and people come with their cameras on, their cameras off, and feel free to do whatever is most helpful. And with that, I think those are our main announcements. So we can chant together. Oh yeah, please. Yeah. Do we have a mic for Matt?
Is it my Kate Davies impression? Has anybody ever been confused by the numerous lists in Buddhism, or the Pali terms associated with them, or the relationship to one another? Anybody at all? No. Nobody? Okay, forget it. So with that in mind, and with the help of a robot, I made a cheat sheet for Buddhism, a Buddhist field guide to the mind, and I've laminated a bunch of those and put them on the back, and I have infinite lamination capacity, and for only a $1,000 contribution to the land fund. No. The teachings are all given freely. I'm just wanted to make those available to people. I did it because I get confused, and so I thought I'd make one, and then I shared it. And for the people that are online, it's also on the Discord and the WhatsApp. Okay? And I think there was one announcement from Christina too.
Hi, everybody. Just a gentle reminder that the bathroom in the corner, we want to refrain from using that between 9:30 and 11. If you need to use the restroom, you can exit the doors to the right and then the main hallway, turn left, and there's bathrooms to use there. We just want to avoid using that during the hours of meditation and Dhamma talk. Thanks.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Christina. And let's chant the Buddha's words on loving kindness, page 37. If you're considering memorizing a chant, this can be a good first one. It's one of the ones that we memorize first when we come to a monastery, and it's really a field guide to how to practice loving kindness meditation. Now let us chant the Buddha's words on loving kindness. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties, and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety. May all beings be at ease, whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short, or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born. May all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another, or despise any beings in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another, even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child. So with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding, by not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Okay, so we can sit meditation together. And through the course of this meditation and really any meditation, you can take the essence of that discourse, the essence of that chant, really into practice, this wish for goodwill. We're meditating because we care about ourselves. We care about the body, we care about the mind. And so bringing that sense of care, friendliness, and loving kindness to the meditation. And to begin with, we'll set the body upright. And whether you're sitting on a cushion, on the floor, or sitting in a chair, the first thing that we pay attention to when we decide we're going to meditate is the body. So we'll be meditating for a bit over 15 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. And just deciding, okay, for this next period of time, I'm going to sit with the body which is upright but not uptight. Because this is the type of mind we're wanting to cultivate as well. A mind which is awake and alert, but also relaxed and serene. So embodying those can elongate your spine, allowing the bottom of the spine as if it can sink into the earth, and the top of the spine as if raising into the sky. This upright central column. And everything else all the skin, surface muscles, deep muscle, flesh, inner organs, all of that can just fully relax. Upright, but not uptight. Now coming to the mind. And people are welcome to practice with whatever object you're most familiar with. It can be the breath or a mantra. But for those who are curious, I'll just give a bit of guidance on maybe a different kind of meditation that you might not be used to. And this is paying attention to impermanence through different sense doors, starting with vision. So with the eyes closed, you'll notice that the screen in front of you isn't just a solid black, solid darkness, but it's actually a glow. It's a play of light. And all of us, each of us is seeing a different show. But all of it is highly impermanent. And see if you can tap into even a sense of joy or a sense of interest. This whole visual scene, even with eyes closed, is so totally impermanent, so totally changing. Colors are constantly shifting, changing. Even the dark behind the colors. Just constantly moving. The Buddha talked about this as being the joy of perceiving impermanence. And we just ignore it and aren't interested most of the time. But just staying with this visual glow for a few more minutes. See if you can take it as your object of concentration, meditation, even though it's in a flux. Tapping into that joy, recognizing impermanence. And even if you can't feel a joy in watching this play of colors, perhaps you can at least intuit the possibility of joy. This is interesting. Or at least the possibility of interest. And if you're finding the visual show engrossing and immersive, absorbing, you can stay with that. Or you can shift to the ear door. So bringing awareness to our sense of hearing. And here too, notice the perception of impermanence. For some people, you can automatically hear a kind of hum in the background, which is, though seemingly constant, influx, frequency, modulating. Or even if you don't hear this hum, Ajahn Sumedho calls the sound of silence, still just the world of around us is so constantly changing. So rather than the road being a hindrance to meditation, it's just a part, constantly changing. So too with the heater, the people around us, the chairs, the hall. Is there any joy, any interest to be found here in noticing the impermanence of sound? You can stay with the auditory sense or the visual sense. But if you're feeling mentally flexible, you can also shift to feeling. And here it suggests just bringing your awareness to the feelings in the palms of the hands. Very sensitive skin with lots of nerve endings, bringing the mind's awareness to just what it feels like on the surface of the skin, in the hands. And see if you can tap into that interest in impermanence. For me, it does feel like a flux, a flow. Feels like cloud hands. And meditation is really a training in our capacity for interest. Impermanence, so palpable, so manifest right here. And is it even pleasant? Perceiving the impermanence in the feelings in the hands. And in the last few minutes, just bringing awareness to the heart and remembering that well wish. May I be well, and may all beings be well. May all beings be at ease. And if you can tap into that ephemerality, that flux and flow and wave-like quality of first-person felt sense, you can just imagine that loving wish just emanating, radiating from the heart in every direction. May I be at ease. May I be well. May all beings be at ease. Above, below, around, and everywhere.
If anyone would like to join in requesting a Dhamma talk, you can follow along on page 124 of the chanting book. And if you wish, you may start by bowing 3 times. Brahma Chaloka Dipati Sahampati Katanjaliyana Diwaram Ayakata Santi Dasata Parachakajatika Dese Tutamam Anukampi Mampacham. You may bow 3 times again if you wish.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So I'm actually very curious. Who here could actually experience some of that joy of impermanence? Okay, all right, some people. And interest, or at least the possibility of interest in impermanence? More people. All right, good. The Pali word is anicca. This is one of the 3 characteristics of Buddhism. It's definitely on Matt's sheet, or if it's not, you should add it, Matt, because, yeah, good. It's there, good. So, general question, how many types of feeling did the Buddha speak about? How many types of feeling? We got 3, 5, 6, 7, 14, 52, 108. Yeah, and you're all right. There's a fascinating and endearing, and it seems so believable story, sutra, discourse from the Buddha, which starts out, it's in the Majjhima Nikaya number 59, the many different kinds of feelings sutta. And the sutta starts out with these 2 practitioners. One of them is a carpenter named Panchakanga, and the other one is named Udayin, who is a monk. And he's somewhat of a rascally monk. There were rascally monks even in the time of the Buddha. It's a bit of an aside, but in the Vinaya, in our monks' rules, there is a story involving Udayin, which might be the first recorded prank in history. So if you remember, ask me a question about that afterwards, and I will tell you about that first prank in history. But Panchakanga and Udayin are talking about just this point, about feeling. And Panchakanga asks Udayin, the monk, he says, how many types of feeling are there? And Udayin says, there are 3. And Udayin then asks Panchakanga, how many are there? And Panchakanga says 2. And one of them disagrees with the other one. He says, no, pretty sure there's 3. And the other says, no, pretty sure there's 2. And they go back and forth. Okay, there's 2 types of feeling, 3 types of feeling, 2 types of feeling, 3 types of feeling. And they couldn't agree. And eventually, Ananda, who's the Buddha's attendant monk, foremost in many things, but he brings this to the Buddha. He overhears this conversation, brings it up to the Buddha, and the Buddha summons them to his presence and asks them, okay, did you say this? And they both say that, yes, they did. And the Buddha then tells Ananda that Panchaganga, who said that there were two, he was totally correct. And he says that Udayan, who said that they were three, was also totally correct. And that the Buddha will teach, depending on the character of the person who he's speaking to, he will teach in different ways. He says he taught two types of feeling, bodily and mental, or sukha and dukkha, that's pain and pleasure. He taught three types of feeling, that's dukkha, sukha, and neutral, so pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. He says at times he would teach 5 types of feeling or Vedana. That's sukha, dukkha, so bodily pain, bodily pleasure, mental pain, mental pleasure, and mental equanimity. He says he would teach 6 types of feeling. That's feeling based on the eye, feeling based on sounds, smells, tastes, touch, and mind. So teaching 6 types. He says he would also teach 18 types of feeling. He would teach 36 types of feeling. And he would even teach 108 different types of feeling. And this is the one time in the Pali Canon where this number 108 comes up. It has become a kind of a Buddhist number. You'll find it in many different lists in different Buddhist contexts, but this is the one time it comes up in Theravada as the types of feeling. And it's fascinating. The Buddha says that if one does not recognize what has been well-spoken as well-spoken, then it is natural that such a person will dwell in discord, in disharmony, not in line, not living in accord with the people around them. They will speak harsh words and stab each other with mental daggers, stab each other with verbal daggers. So, he continued, if someone does acknowledge what has been well-spoken as well-spoken, it's very natural that people will live in harmony, in concord, delighting in one another's presence, blending together like milk and water, or as we say in Seattle, like coffee and oat milk. So it's just natural. If you have this epistemic humility, you have this humility about the way that you understand the Dhamma, and actually are able to listen to other people. Okay, maybe I don't have the full picture. Maybe I do know a sutta well, but maybe I said something else. And this doesn't just for Dhamma, but just in our lives in general. How much space can we hold our own opinions and the opinions of others with? And it's important. So I thought that I would go into specifically that list of 36. And honestly, giving a talk talking about 36 things is a bit much. It's a bit much. So I brought a whiteboard for visuals. This is a whiteboard that Friends of Clear Mountain bought for Ajahn Nisabo. He was thinking that he might experiment with the practice of kind of like Gandhi, of like not speaking at all, like one day a week. And so we were given these whiteboards and brought it to Alms, and didn't work so well. It's harder than you might think to write out your every thought, but he might try that again at some point in the future, but that's why we have these whiteboards. So the 36, the Buddha talked about generally 3 types of feeling. You've got, and these are even considered as moods. So moods. These are the mental aspect of what's pleasant, what's painful, and what's neutral. So sukha means pleasant. Somanassa is mental pleasure. So he talked about the joy. You have basically 2 different types of joy and 2 different types of grief, here and here. And you've got 2 different types of equanimity. So again, the mental aspects. So 2 different types of mental joy, 2 different types of mental grief, 2 different types of mental equanimity. And how that becomes 36 is because each of these you can have mental joy based on the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, or mind, sight, sound, smells, taste, touch. Similarly with grief, similarly with equanimity. And how we have the 2 different types is you've got what the Buddha called geha citta, which means It literally means household, joy, grief, and equanimity. And you've got renunciant, joy, grief, and equanimity. And so we've got a magnet, because the word gehasita, although it does mean a house, a household, it's also about ga is the Sanskrit and Pali root, which means to hold on. So a house is that which we hold on to. So it's literally the type of joy, grief, and equanimity that we hold on to unskillfully. These are the type of joy, grief, and equanimity that keep us bounded to samsara, the carceral or incarcerate or joy, grief, and equanimity of bondage. These are the things that keep us swirling around in samsara. And the renunciate, nekama, this is the type of joy, grief, and equanimity which lead us out of samsara, which lead us to peace. So what are these? Give me a minute. Okay, so we have the joy of the household life is a glimmer. It's when we regard as a gain the sight, sound, smells, taste, touch, which are agreeable, likable, enjoyable, connected with sensual desire, and provocative of lust. So that's a basic English translation of some Pali stuff, but it's basically all the stuff that we feed on most of the time. You regard as a joy when you go to see a movie. You love it because, okay, I've got some good movie in front of me. Just got the image on the screen, and it's awesome, and it's exciting, and we're excited by the glimmer and the sparkle of it. And what the Buddha said, he doesn't just talk about these 12 or 36 types of feeling, but he says how we can use them for the path. So he says, relying on these ones, we can abandon these ones. So what is the emancipatory, the renunciant, the simplifying, the leading out of samsara joy? It's when you recognize sight, sound, smells, taste, and touch, which are wished for, agreeable, likable, connected with sensual desire, and provocative lust, as impermanent. And not just now, but all the ones in the past, every sight, sound, smell, taste, touch that we've enjoyed in the past, and those which are pleasant in the present, all of those are subject to impermanence. And so hopefully that's what we were able to tap into, and something that we can train the mind in meditation, is learning to appreciate this more subtle joy of ephemerality. Okay, yeah, this is pleasant. You don't have to destroy a pleasant feeling that you have, but you can transmute it. You can kind of take it to another level, which is a bit more safe. Like whatever the pleasant movie or the beautiful dude or dudette or whatever, the beautiful person, the lovely sound, the wonderful smell, the great taste, it's precarious. It's precarious. It will change. But if you're able to delight in the changeability of that this and all other senses, delights of the senses, they also pass. When you can delight in that, that's one step up, and it's a safer, it's a less precarious type of joy. And you can train in that. You can train your interest. Say, okay, maybe that's interesting too. Yeah, this is enjoyable, but okay, the credits can be enjoyable too. Or just sitting alone with silence. You can more and more tune into that sound of silence, this underlying tone in the auditory landscape. Or the colors behind the eyes. Scientists there's a name for it, it's called phosphene. That's the colors, that play of shapes behind the eyes, shape of colors. And there's actually two other words, German words, Eigenlicht and Eigengrau, which mean your own light and your own gray. So you close your eyes, and that darkness behind the colors, that's your Eigengrau. It's your own personal, intrinsic gray. And it becomes fascinating. And nobody else has your own gray. And it's very interesting because it's so impermanent. It just looks like static on a TV. Similarly with sounds, that sound of silence is just so changing. Then you've got the sad face. You've got the grief of the household life and the grief of renunciation. And give me a second. Boom. You've got the hook and you've got the compass. So what is householder grief, or the grief which is connected with attachment, with holding on? It's when you regard as a non-gain, as a loss, when those beautiful, lovely, delicious, pleasant sounds, smells, tastes, touch, when those change and you regard it as a loss and you suffer because of that, that's the grief of household life. Oh, that thing that I loved, that idea that I loved, that has changed, and you suffer based on that. That's the incarcerate, the carceral, the bondage, the pain of bondage of household life, of holding on. And this one is fascinating. So if you've fallen asleep, if you've thought, there's way too much numbers, I'm not used to lists, I don't like any of this, wake up for this one, because this is interesting. So what is the grief, the distress of renunciation? It is when you regard those same, the change and alteration of sight, sound, smells, taste, touch. You notice that all of the ones in present and all of the ones in past were of a nature to change. And then take another step and think, when will I too enter upon and dwell in that sphere, that scope, that expanse that the noble ones currently enter on and abide in? And then based on that, you actually develop a longing for space, a longing for some kind of freedom. And that is a type of grief, but it's a type of grief which leads upwards. It's a useful type of grief. And it's not that big of a change to, the Buddha said, relying on this, you can abandon that. So this is a type of cognitive reframing. So when you notice yourself just sad about something, there's nothing inherently bad or evil, certainly nothing evil about sadness, but is it actually useful? And could you just, with a slight shift, okay, there is this sadness, but okay, is there a space? Is it possible to abandon the attachment that's leading to this kind of sadness? And based on that, that provides a compass to your life, which, even though it is a grief, it is a distress, it is a renunciate sadness. Okay, it's sad. I'm not yet enlightened. I don't yet have spaciousness around this. But actually, I do believe that a human mind can have spaciousness around this. And just inclining towards that. Okay, I've got a pain in my knee. And if you need to move, then that's totally fine. But staying with it maybe a second or two longer and thinking, yeah, wouldn't it be great if I could just remain with that first arrow? The Buddha talked about 2 arrows. So bodily pain is unavoidable, but the mental suffering we add on top of it is optional. And wouldn't it be amazing if I could just stay with that first arrow and not add that second arrow? Can I imagine a space that's big enough, bigger than just my attachment to the grief? Just asking that question, it shifts the experience. And then what are the type of carceral, householder, holding on to neutral feeling and renunciatory one? One more second, get ready. Okay. It is the grief, which is like a dark cloud, or I'm sorry, the neutral feeling, which is like a dark cloud, and the neutral feeling, which is just like a diamond. So neutral feeling of the household life, that's the neutral feeling of meh, meh, okay, so. The kind of boredom or neutral feeling which a lot of us just live our lives with, throughout the course of a day. It's just, okay, meh, yeah, it's not so great, it's just kind of boring, nothing super exciting, nothing super depressing, just, it's okay. And the neutral feeling, which is liberatory, is when you are able to take a step outside of that. It's the type of neutral feeling which is not zoning out, which is this type of neutral feeling, but actually zoning in. It's a neutral feeling which is not based on diversity, but is based on singleness. And again, the Buddha said that by relying on this, you can abandon that. So just noticing that the mind is neutral. The Buddha said that what is dukkha and sukha, what is pleasant and unpleasant about neutral feeling? And he said neutral feeling is pleasant when it's known and unpleasant when it's not known. So that's rather interesting. So neutral feeling is unpleasant when it's not known. That's just the boredom which we experience. But when you notice that, when you recognize, okay, my mind is just, it's been zoned out for some period of time. And knowing that, there's actually, you're on a different level, different relationship to that. And so you can just abandon that by knowing the neutral feeling. And you can actually do different levels of relying on this. So relying on the emancipatory, the renunciate pleasure, you can abandon the holding on to unpleasure. Same with grief, neutral. But you can also, by relying on emancipatory, liberatory joy, you can abandon liberatory grief. So that's very interesting, that you can abandon the grief which says, oh, when will I too, realizing impermanence. The next thought is, okay, can there be space around this? And then when you realize, okay, there can be space around that, the sadness, the grief doesn't immediately go away, but you're in a much more stable spot. You've got more cognitive space to move. And then shifting from realizing that level of impermanence, you can then move in the direction of joy, just recognizing that, okay, yeah, there's space here, and that can actually be joyous. And then relying on this diamond here, you can abandon even the renunciate joy. So this is the move which is maybe best embodied about the move from second jhana to third jhana. So if anybody, we've had experiences of pleasure and joy which can rightly, hopefully we have, rightly be described as ecstasy or even rapture. And it's great. It's awesome. Rapture, pleasure, ecstasy, it sounds awesome. And if you train in that, which the Buddha says you can, meditators say you can get better at training in renunciate joy, renunciate rapture, renunciate ecstasy even. You can get better. But you come to a point when it's just so vibratory, when the level of energy is just so, the hum is just so much that you're just like, okay, I need to chill out. And that's, you can just go to a higher level of equanimity, letting go of that vibratoriness. And you actually go to a higher level of pleasure, the pleasure of equanimity. So this is, a way of speaking about moods in Buddhism. It's a framework for conceiving a broader picture of the emotional landscape of Buddhism, which isn't that spoken about, but the Buddha did teach it. You should check out the Sutta, Majjhima 137. 59, the many kinds of feeling. And it's an interesting map to, I suffer from something which is very particular. It's definitely a first world kind of problem, but it comes up in my meditation. I'll be meditating. It happened this very morning. I was meditating, and our meditation session was 2 hours on the weekends in the morning. So meditating in that 2-hour session, everything is going good. And then it came upon me. It was this word play, this delicious word play about how two words, which I love, they rhyme. I figured out that they rhymed together. And I just become obsessed with that word play. And I call this particular type of dukkha the punishment. The punishment. It's the punishment. And it really is punishment. I was looking for the bliss of samadhi, peace. I was looking for some of this, or at least some of this, but then I become obsessed with this pun, this wonderful, delicious pun, and I couldn't let it down for like 45 minutes. It was ridiculous. But that pun was probably what might call this talk, which is Buddhism versus moodism. Buddhism versus... I know, it's not even that good. It is not even that good. That's why it's punishment. And then I go and afflict you. I punish you all. It's horrible. Mutually afflictive. But there is, a kind of fetishization in America of moods. Like, don't try to take away my moods. Don't tell me what to do with my moods. I'm going to do whatever I want to do with my moods, okay? And see how that works. How I'm not trying to, gaslight anybody, say you shouldn't feel what you're feeling. But also see if there is a space for asking about the utility of this mood. And is there wiggle room around this mood? And might I be able to reframe it in a way which would be more helpful for the path? When you find yourself sad, say you're in meditation or you're just in daily life because your partner left you, or you're just thinking about that thing which you can no longer afford, or that car which got crashed, or whatever it is. Okay, that does suck, and that is sad. And when will I too be able to enter on and abide in that sphere, that expanse, that spaciousness which the noble ones currently enter in and abide in? When can I have this spaciousness of mind that doesn't have to suffer of this? Yeah, okay, the feeling is still there. I'm still sad about this, and I've got a bigger horizon. I've got more flexibility because it's all permanent. It's all permanent for me, and it's always been always impermanent for me and for everybody else. And you can work from that to just the joy of being able to see, yeah, okay, just change. It's always been like that. And you can notice it in any sense door. The phosphene behind the eye, the sound of silence, the glimmers that appear in different sense door, the murmuring of the hands or the feelings in the body. And that really is such a tactile, utterly feelable, most any of the time. You can shift to any of these perceptions of impermanence when you feel yourself being locked into a particular type of sadness or a particular type of joy. It's good to be able to even shift out, yeah, this is enjoyable, and I don't have to stop it. And there's a higher level of joy that I can tap into, and even a joy which is more stable than that. So for those of you who hate lists, I apologize, and we'll, I think, end the talk there.
Handamayam Dhammakataya Sadhu Karam Dhamma Se Sadhu, Sadhu, Sadhu Anumodami.
All right. And so we have time for questions. If anybody here has a question, you can raise your hand. And if anybody on Zoom has a question, you can raise your hand. And before there are any immediate questions, I will tell you that first prank in recorded history. And it's possible some other religion has a prank that's recorded, but this one is so interesting and fascinating in that it's recorded in a text that was put down on palm leaf maybe 2,300 years ago. Is fascinating. So this is from the Buddha's monk's rules. So Udayan, who's in this story, he's the one who's saying, no, there's three feelings. He, again, is a little bit scoundrelly, a little bit rascally, but he is an awesome sower. He's very good at sowing. So he comes up as the origin story for a lot of the monks' and nuns' rules around robes. So in this particular rule, Udayan is, the eventual rule is that a monk should not sew a robe for a bhikkhuni, for a nun. And what is the origin story? This involves Udayan. So Udayan gets this idea. He's doing bad stuff with robes, and he's a little bit sketchy in other realms as well. So he gets this idea to sew this robe for a nun, and he sews it all up, and then he actually embroiders on the back of the robe a lewd image. In the commentary, ridiculous. A lewd image. In the commentary say it's actually an image of two people having sex on the back of this nun's robe. This is text from 2,300 years ago. It's like way before Jackass, the TV show. Udayan, original, Johnny Knoxville, ridiculous. And then he doesn't just give it to the robe, but to the nun. He folds it up and he gives it to the nun. He says, "Here's your robe. Don't wear it until you go out. Until you go out to go outside the monastery." And she's like, "Okay, sounds good." And she does it. She wears it, and then all of the other nuns, all of the villagers, everybody around sees this scandalous, lewd image on the back of her robe, and they criticize, complain, and spread it about. How can this Udayan sew a lewd image on the back of a nun's robe? And so that's why we, to this very day, can no longer sew robes for bhikkhunis. So sketchy monks. So believable, though. So believable. God. There's lots of stories like that. Monks behaving badly, that could be another name for the Vinaya, or the monastic texts. All right, good. I'm glad I got that out of my system. I need to pun purge sometimes. I need to purge all of my enthusiasm sometimes. If anybody has any questions. Please.
With forgiveness, there's something that I want to forgive within me, but in forgiving, do I also have to forgive the person?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And in short, you don't have to say anything to them. And the Buddhist teachings are really about how we relate to our own heart first and foremost. And you can look at forgiveness as one of these, or the pain that's causing the pain behind it as one of these two. And forgiveness is a way of moving from this that just sees the pain that the other person caused me into this. Okay, there could be some wiggle room around this pain, and you can't force it. And it is a matter of just being with it and looking about the utility of not forgiving versus forgiving. And but you really can't force it, and it's not helpful to do that. So sitting with it and being realistic with yourself. I think there's a time when Ajahn Sumedho said that there was a monk who he really felt he should forgive and was trying, and then eventually he just had to write that person's name and put it in a cupboard and thinking, okay, I'm going to come back to this when I'm ready for it. And then eventually, I think it was like 6 months or a year before he was ready to actually forgive that person. But there is, I think the kind of holding on which prevents us from giving, that afflicts us first, regardless of whether we're not able to say the words to the other person. And yeah, it's really worth reflecting on and sitting with, and being with the the discomfiture of that, and wanting your own well-being. So sitting with that, and I would recommend actually doing some metta practice for yourself if it does come up, like this person hurt me in this way, rather than thinking I should forgive that person, just bring up loving kindness. I want the best for myself, regardless of whether or not I forgive this person now or later or ever. Okay, I really want the best for myself. Forget the question of forgiveness. I want the best for myself. Yeah. I just say sit with that, and then I think the wisdom will emerge from that of how best to approach forgiving the person or not, or just letting go in your own heart and then never telling the person if that seems like it would just stir up things which didn't need to be stirred up. So, yeah, sadhu.
We've got some questions on Zoom. I think Ray was first.
Yeah, Ray, please. Can you unmute, Ray?
Hi, this is Ray, if you can hear me.
Yep. Good.
Um, Hi, Ajahn. This is like my fourth service, and I'm very new to Buddhism, but I really appreciated what you had to say. And I'm actually um, in school to become a therapist right now, and a lot of what you say actually resonates with what I'm learning in school. And I was curious because something that I learned about that I think is very popular right now in the zeitgeist is attachment theory, and thinking about healing is in terms of healing in relationship and in our connections to other people. And I know that's a different kind of attachment than what you're talking about today, but I was just curious, um, like what Buddhism or what you might have to say about like our attachment to other people, and the, you know, necessity versus, for survival, and versus, I don't know, the dangers, or I'm just curious. Yeah.
Oh, welcome, Ray. Thank you. Alf, could you get me a copy of the Well-Being Cascade? Do you have them? Yeah, it's a great question, and it does seem in a lot of Buddhist circles there's a lot of kind of attachment shaming. You hear about upadana, or clinging attachment, as being just a cause of suffering, and upadana really is. So there's in Buddhism what's called the dependent origination, which is the causality of unhappiness. Thanks, Alf. Sadhu, sadhu. The causality of unhappiness. And there, you see how you go from feeling, which leads to craving. That's what all of these are about, which leads to clinging, upadana. And then that leads to the whole mass of suffering. So upadana, the root of that is ada, which means to hold. So it's a clingy type of holding, which does lead to suffering. But there's also another word called samadhana, which is the holding of the path. When we chant the precepts, when you say, panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami, I undertake the training to refrain from killing any living creature. Samadhana. Samadhana and upadana. Upadana is the clinging, the attachment, which leads to suffering, all this suckiness. And samadhana is the type of holding which leads to liberation. That's all of these three. So you samadhana precepts. You figure out a healthy way to hold on to your precepts. You samadhana the mind. You figure out a way to hold on to your meditation object. It's like the clinging which would, squash a baby chicken, versus, the holding, which is just an utterly kind way to nurture a baby chicken. So two types of holding, two types of, and you have to get sensitive to that because it really is pre-verbal. It right now is my way of holding on to the next thing that I want to say, to my emotion, to my feeling of liking or disliking. Is this leading to suffering? Is this a clenching, which is going to lead to more suffering? Or is it a healthy holding, which will really be emancipatory? So I hope that helps. And just a plug. So Alf did publish a reprinting of this book, which is called The Well-Being Cascade, which is all about natural passages to Pamoja, which is the joy of the path. And here we have basically the causality. So whereas dependent origination is the causality of suffering, this book is all about the causality of happiness, where the Buddha talks about different entry points for getting to well-being. You hold precepts, or you practice metta, or you practice generosity, or you practice meditation, and that leads to pamoja, well-being, which leads to piti, which is joy, which leads to sukha, which is happiness, which then leads to samadhi, which then leads to concentration, which then leads to liberation. So this book is all about the causality of happiness, how to hold in increasingly subtler and more skillful ways. So we got a bunch of copies back there. And Alf, did we say we were going to keep you anonymous? Sorry. Well, forget that I told you, but let's give 3 sadhus to Alf for doing that reprint. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And don't tell anybody else that Alf was the reprinter of that. But do pick up a coffee if you don't yet have one. So Ray, I hope that hit home in a helpful way.
Thank you. Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Hi, Ajahn. I'm over here to your right.
Oh, hey, Suze.
So I wanted to thank you for that guided meditation on the discovering the joy of sitting with impermanence. And I've experienced the joy of sitting with selfing when it gets thick or thin, is the second of the 3 characteristics. And I'm wondering if you could also say anything about sitting with the joy of seeing dukkha.
Yeah, very much, very much. I think this book is separated into 5 sections. The first one is about faith, how faith leads to pamoja, or well-being, then to joy, happiness, concentration, liberation. Second chapter is on generosity. Third chapter is on precepts, or keeping sense of integrity. Then it's about learning, and then it's about wisdom. And in the wisdom section, there's this very long section where the Buddha talks about noticing impermanence, the perception of impermanence, whether noticing impermanence of sounds, sight, smells, taste, touch, as leading to pamoja, but also with anatta, how the perception of not self can lead to pamoja, or well-being, and how the perception of dukkha can lead to well-being as well. Why I was sitting with moods this whole week was because I did sit a Goenka retreat 2 weeks ago, and there you sit with a lot of physical suffering. And if you can get that sense of remove, so we naturally recoil. All beings want to avoid suffering and want to experience happiness. They recoil from dukkha and lean into sukha. But having this wiggle room, okay, there is this physical dukkha, but can I tap into, when can I enter into that expanse, that ayatana, this space, this spaciousness, this expanse that the noble ones dwell in, enter on, which doesn't make a problem out of this. This was a great teaching from Ajahn Pasano. Just don't make a problem out of it. Don't make a problem out of it. That's a really interesting teaching, I think, specifically around being with dukkha. So can this dukkha be here? And if it's not going to, make me break my leg, it's not going to totally break anything, then can I just not make a problem out of it? And that gives me that wiggle room. And that can lead to well-being in the present moment. It's like, I do have a bigger mind. My mind is bigger. What happens with physical dukkha? Why we suffer around it, why it becomes that second arrow, is because it has become the aperture of our camera of awareness is just totally shrunk down to whatever that pain or our dislike. I dislike that slurpy sound my homeboy makes. Not Ajahn Nisabo. He doesn't like it when I slurp. But yeah, that thing that I dislike it because my awareness has become so small that it's the biggest thing in the world. The monk next to me causes 99% of the world's suffering because my aperture has become so small. And can your heart grow bigger? And okay, there's joy here because I have the cognitive flexibility to say, I'm bigger, the mind is bigger than that. So very good question, thank you. Thank you, Suze. And same with anatta, not self. Yeah.
We've got Ed on Zoom.
Ed, please.
Thank you, Ajahn. I think I heard an equation between neutrality and equanimity earlier. And if that's correct, could you speak about that some more?
Yeah, thank you. The Pali word upekkha is used in different contexts. So upekkha, equanimity or equipoise, is one of the perfections. It's the 10th of the spiritual perfections. So this is this type of equanimity, the equanimity of the diamond, which we can cultivate. It's the mind which can step up out of our immersedness with whatever we're feeling, the small mind. So equanimity, which can also be well translated as equipoise there, is a spiritual perfection which we should cultivate. Equanimity is also a feeling. It is one of the words used when talking about 5 different types of feeling. You've got dukkha, or physical suffering, sukha, physical pleasure, somanassa, mental well-being, domanassa, mental grief, and you've got upekkha, or there it's just a feeling of neutrality or neither pleasant nor unpleasant. So it is used in different contexts, and this kind of blah face here, the neutral mouthed one, is just pointing to that neutrality. It's not so exciting, and it's not depressing. It's not elevatory, and it's not downgrading. It's not worth a smile, and it's not worth a frown. But training the mind to be able to step up out of that, and it can, relying on the equanimity of the perfections, this renunciant equanimity, the renunciatory equanimity, which just does recognize that can be part of the path. So a little bit of back and forthing with the language. Was that at all clarifying?
Yes, it was. To me, equanimity feels spacious and bright and joyous, and neutrality just has a very different sense feeling to it.
Very, very good point. Yeah, no, what you're calling equanimity is this equipoise. And people who have gone to a Goenka retreat, that's what Goenka uses, this metaphor of, like, just as there are 2 wings of a bird, one of them is awareness and mindfulness, and the other one is equanimity. And the type of equanimity he's pointing there is not a neutrality, but it is this one step up, this bright mind, which is part of the path, training in the capacity to, upekkha literally means to look over or to look down. It has the root iksh, which means to see. So it's the mind which is able to lift up and kind of look down at a bit of remove. You're not stuck in the mire. The mire might still be there, the muck might still be there, but actually it's not a problem. So thank you for clarifying that, Ed. And good to see you.
I'm thinking about, I hope it's clear when I say this how it relates to what you already said, but I do have a question about the difference between vibhava tanha, between craving for non-being, and dispassion. And I was wondering if that's captured in your metaphor of the lens of the camera, which I use that metaphor a lot. I like that in terms of whether one's holding tightly around, in an aversive way, around something versus a much more spacious view. In my mind, the reason I'm asking is because in my practice, those two can sort of blur into one another.
Dispassion
and vibhava-tanha, craving for not. I'm thinking of that sutta where I don't remember, but the ascetic says to the Buddha, I am of the mind or that nothing suits me. And somewhere in that sutta, the Buddha says, well, that's closer to where we want to be, but it's still not it. And the reason I'm thinking of dispassion is because it's so close to liberation, at least, right?
Yeah.
But it's not vibhava-tanha. Vibhava-tanha actually is a defilement in a way. So I was just curious, is that about the tightness, in your understanding, the tightness versus the spaciousness?
It is. It's really helpful. And just one skillful means to kind of elaborating that metaphor of the aperture of a camera, there is almost a felt sense in the eyes. There can become an intensity when we intensely dislike something or intensely like something, where the eye, almost the muscles, the orbicular oculi muscle just tenses up, or even the iris can tense up to some degree. And being able to physically, so that is, if it's on the aversive end of things, that is the vibhava-tanha. I don't want to see mind clenching up. And just relaxing the muscles around the eyes is the level of dispassion, of easing up. And you can physically just do that exercise with your eyes. Am I tensing up either the muscles around the eyes? Can I literally see the world more softly rather than staring and shooting what's called those verbal daggers or mental daggers or daggers of the eyes? Can I literally look at someone with kindly eyes? So almost diffusing rather than staring, glaring, just open up the field of vision to almost notice that you're looking through a single eye with a blurry frame. It's like a single eye, and I can't even point to the frame of the eye. It just kind of, okay, I can't see here, but I can see here. Okay, can I just let the eye chill out? The muscles around the eye just relax. So that's a skillful means. And that viraga, it is mentioned in that sutta. This is the joy, grief, and equanimity of viraga. And vibhava-tanha, or not wanting, is always a path which will lead to more samsara. So.
Well, thank you. It's a beautiful practice and metaphor, and it speaks very deeply to me because I have a visual disability that manifests as too tightly focusing on things, and what I've had to learn is a soft focus. So that was very intuitive, actually. So thank you. Yes, sadhu.
And I think we might have time for one, maybe short one. Yeah? Okay.
Hi, thanks, Ajahn. I'm Ren. The question I had, if you'd comment on it, is I'm not an experienced practitioner, and in this meditation, it was really good. You were talking about, impermanence, but this time you mentioned the buzzing in my ears, which is kind of the sound of silence, and maybe we're all having it. But I was thinking about the wind's blowing through the trees, they're rustling leaves outside, and kind of like, it's not impermanent, but I become like part of, the wind again. Like when you're hiking and you hear you hear the breeze through the mountains, and you kind of go, we'll be here forever, but we're not as important as we think we are. Sort of like, it was kind of a letting go, but it was feeling like part of something, endless, infinite, but not as particular.
That's beautiful. And actually that does tie right into the final, where the Buddha talks about the equanimity or the neutrality of diversity. So this is just, we're bored because, okay, it's not that great a show, the song isn't that great, whatever, my life is just kind of meh. But it's diversified. It's a diversified neutrality. Whereas this is the equanimity of unification. So leading, and you can, by relying on this, you can abandon this by relying on unification. So like you're saying, okay, I'm actually, one, in a sense, I can kind of tap into that. And some people really can, like very viscerally, into that. I'm less distracted, the mind is becoming more collected, more of a piece. That's the equanimity of unification. And the Buddha does eventually take it one step forward. We're saying by relying on the equanimity of non-identification, you can abandon even that wonderful, blissful equanimity of unification. So non-identification. But just where you're at, there's definitely, these are like stepwise. You can stay with this grief of renunciation for, it can be part of the path. So don't be afraid of it. The joy of renunciation, it's part of the path, don't be afraid of it. Same with the equanimity of renunciation, it's part of the path. So too, that equanimity of singularity, of oneness, of wholeness, of unification, that's part of the path. And there's another step, I'm not even that. Not even that. And even that, the Buddha said, would be an even higher level of bliss, so, of well-being, yeah, leading in the direction of Nibbana, so, yeah. All right, well, glad you all made it through, even though there's no potluck today. Impressive. Well, let's read the blessing braid for today. This is a list of people who are in our broader community, people who we're just trying to keep in our hearts, who might be going through a rough patch.
For Terry Mongas, received diagnosis of cancer, spread love. That's from Erica, Jason, and the Ajans. To Miles Leighton, passed away, please send metta, dedicate merit or both, from Trenton. Also from Trenton, for Adrian, was a friend of Miles, please send metta, dedicate merit or both. For the Panya Bhumi community, those in Mexico and near Panya Bhumi navigating social unrest, may they be safe and well, from the Ajans. For Bill, Dee's husband, who just passed, spread merit and wish you go boy, from Dee and the Ajans. For Venerable Panyavati, passed away February 26th, spread merit for a fortunate rebirth, great gratitude for her gift to the world, from Alex, the community, and Ajans. For Barbara, diagnosed with Alzheimer's, please send love, from Nicole and Danny. For Scott, ongoing challenge with illness and medical treatments, from Danny. And for Venerable Bhikkhuni Panyavati Karuna, co-founder of the Heartwood community in North Carolina, left her body on this auspicious day, February 26th. When asked what she wanted to share with people, she said, no coming and no going, no birth and no death. That's from Karen.
Thank you, Miles. Milo. Any other names that people would like to bring into the space? Yeah, Judith, please. Pat. Yeah, please, Jen. Michelle and Shaula. Christy. Steve and Sabrina. Yeah. Gabe. Okay, let's sit with all those names and everyone who didn't get mentioned. Let's continue that practice with the verse on page 33. This is the verse of sharing and aspiration. We continue that practice and just dedicate any goodness that we've done this morning, this week, this life, however that might work, dedicate it to all those beings who came to mind and all those who we didn't say, sharing all that goodness. Now let us chant the verses of sharing and aspiration. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, may my spiritual teachers and guides of great virtue, my mother, my father, and my relatives, the sun and the moon, and all virtuous leaders of the world, may the highest gods and evil forces, celestial beings, guardian spirits of the earth, and the Lord of death, may those who are friendly, indifferent, or hostile, may all beings receive the blessings of my life. May they soon attain the threefold bliss and realize the deathless goodness that arises from my practice. And through this act of sharing, may all desires and attachments quickly cease, and all harmful states of mind, until I realize Nibbana in every kind of birth. May I have an upright mind with mindfulness and wisdom, austerity and vigor. May the forces of delusion not take hold, nor weaken my resolve. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. Unsurpassed is the protection of the Dhamma. The solitary Buddha is my noble guide. The Sangha is my supreme support. Through the supreme power of all these, may darkness and delusion be dispelled. Okay. And something which is nice that we do is, if anybody is here for the first, second, or third time, if you'd be willing to maybe stand up and say your name, that would be nice, if you're willing. What's your name? Harlery. Oh, good to see you. Yeah, nice. Welcome. Andres, welcome. Welcome, Judith. Clark, welcome. Ryan, welcome. Nice. Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. Really? Wow. Welcome, Sarai. All right. Yeah. David. Taylor. All right. Welcome. What's your name? Tammy. Okay. Welcome. Paloma. Welcome. Yeah. All right. Well, we do usually have a potluck, which is exciting. Please come back a second or a third or fourth time, because potluck is usually great, but we have to be out of here by 12. But we will have time, be able to spend at least the next half hour or so in here, and then people are welcome to continue conversing, meeting one another outside. We will ring a bell in about 10 or 15 minutes to start putting chairs away. But do make a point, if you could take it on the challenge of maybe saying hello to one of these new people, or someone who's new to you, as the first or second person that you talk to is just saying hello to someone who you don't yet know. It's a nice community building challenge. So with that, anybody who likes to can bow, and if you're not so inclined, that's totally fine too. We can say goodbye to people on Zoom. By Zoom.
Well, hopefully they've turned the recording off now. And I don't know